The San Francisco fog was thick enough to choke the skyline, but it didn't stop the frantic morning rush outside the Oracle Arena. 7-year-old Zoe, sharp as a tack and holding a backpack that weighed half her size, scanned the curb. She spotted a sleek, unmarked black sedan idling in the red zone. Standing next to it was a man in a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking at his watch with intense irritation. To Zoe, he looked exactly like the premier driver her mom had promised. She marched up to him, shoved her heavy bag into his hand, and sighed. "You're late. My mom tips well, but only if we make the bell. Trunk, please." Adrian Kang, the 32-year-old founder of Kang Technologies and the man currently worth $900 billion, stared at the backpack in his hand, then at the audacious little girl in the oversized denim jacket. He hadn't opened his own car door in a decade, let alone someone else's. "Excuse me?" Adrian's voice was deep, clipped, and cold. "I am not your—" Before he could finish, a woman sprinted out of the subway exit, her heels clicking frantically against the pavement. "Zoe! Get away from that car!" Jordan Banks, breathless and terrified, grabbed her daughter's shoulder, pulling her back so hard the backpack fell from Adrian's grip. For a second, the bustling city noise vanished. Jordan looked up, ready to apologize to the driver, but the apology died in her throat. She wasn't looking at an Uber driver. She was looking at Adrian Kang. The man whose face was on the cover of Forbes this morning. The man she had spent one unforgettable, hazy night with in a Napa Valley vineyard 7 years ago, a night she had tried to bury because the consequences were standing right next to her. Adrian's eyes narrowed. He didn't recognize her face immediately. She was thinner now, worn down by years of surviving in the shadows, but he recognized the fire in her eyes. It was the same defiance he remembered from the woman who had disappeared with his vintage Patek Philippe watch 7 years ago. Or so he thought. "I assume this belongs to you," Adrian said, kicking the backpack slightly with his Italian leather shoe. "Teach your child the difference between a rideshare and a private convoy." Jordan swallowed her panic, her survival instinct kicking in. "And you should teach your valet not to idle in a passenger loading zone, Mr. Kang. It's misleading." If you want to see Jordan fight her way to the top of his empire, smash that subscribe button right now. The audacity of her response made Adrian pause. Nobody spoke to him like that. Before he could retort, his actual security detail swarmed the sidewalk, pushing Jordan and Zoe back. "Sir, we're late for the merger meeting," his head of security barked. Adrian got into the car, but as the window rolled up, he watched Jordan check Zoe for injuries with a fierce, protective tenderness that made his chest ache with an unfamiliar void. He shook it off. He had a company to save. He arrived at Kang Tech headquarters 10 minutes later, storming into the boardroom where his current legal team was failing miserably to close the acquisition of a rival AI firm. "You're all incompetent," Adrian slammed his hand on the glass table. "The merger is dead in the water because of a clause in Section 4. Fix it, or you're all fired." Suddenly, the boardroom doors flew open. Security hadn't stopped her. Jordan Banks walked in, still out of breath, holding a crumpled legal pad. She had followed him. Not to beg, but to negotiate. "The clause isn't in Section 4, Jordan announced, her voice steady despite the room full of sharks turning to look at her. "It's buried in the IP addendum. They're trying to steal your source code, Adrian." The room went silent. Adrian slowly swiveled his chair around. "And who invited the taxi dispatcher?" he asked, a smirk playing on his lips. "I'm not a dispatcher," Jordan said, tossing the file onto his desk. "I'm the best lawyer you never hired. And I can save this deal in 10 minutes. But it'll cost you." Adrian leaned forward, his eyes locking onto hers. He didn't know that the cost was going to be much higher than money. It was going to be the truth about the little girl waiting in the lobby. Jordan is about to face her worst nightmare. Her own sister is Adrian's fiancée, and she's the one who framed Jordan years ago. Adrian Kang checked his platinum Rolex, the metal cool against his wrist, and gave Jordan a look that could have frozen the Pacific Ocean. 10 minutes, he said, leaning back in his leather chair, spinning a heavy fountain pen between his fingers. If you waste my time, I'll have you blacklisted from every firm in California. Jordan didn't flinch, even though her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She walked to the whiteboard, grabbed a red marker, and slashed a circle around a paragraph in the merger agreement projected on the wall. Clause 18, she said, her voice commanding the room. They defined proprietary assets to exclude anything developed on third-party servers. Your AI lives on the cloud, Adrian. If you sign this, you're handing them your entire brain for free. The room went dead silent. The opposing counsel, a sweating man in a cheap suit, turned pale. Adrian's eyes narrowed, shifting from the board to Jordan's face. He saw it then, not just a desperate mother, but a shark. A shark that swam in the same dangerous waters he did. He stood up, towering over the table, and looked at his lead attorney. "Get out," he whispered dangerously. "You're fired." He turned to Jordan, a flicker of respect warring with his suspicion. "You just saved me $4 billion. Who are you?" Before Jordan could answer, the glass doors swung open again, and the scent of expensive Chanel No. 5 flooded the room, choking the air. "Babe, why is security telling me there's a stray dog in your boardroom?" The voice was high, sweet, and laced with venom. Jordan froze, the marker slipping from her hand and clattering onto the floor. She turned slowly to see a woman in a white power suit, immaculate and terrifyingly beautiful, walking toward Adrian. It was Chloe. Her sister. The woman who had stolen her inheritance, framed her for embezzlement 7 years ago, and left her pregnant and homeless. If you are shocked that the villain is her own sister, you need to sit tight right now because this family feud is about to get lethal. Chloe stopped dead when she saw Jordan. Her perfect mask cracked for a split second, revealing pure, unadulterated panic. "You," Chloe hissed, stepping in front of Adrian as if to shield him. "Security. Get this criminal out of here. She's a thief." Adrian paused, his gaze darting between the two women. He saw the resemblance, the same jawline, the same eyes, but where Chloe was polished ice, Jordan was burning fire. "She's not leaving," Adrian said, his voice cutting through Chloe's shrieks. "She just saved the merger. She's the new head of legal." Chloe's jaw dropped, her face flushing a deep, ugly red. "Are you insane, Adrian? She's a convict. She stole from our father." Jordan stepped forward, her hands clenched into fists. "I didn't steal anything, Chloe. And you know it." The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Adrian looked at Jordan, his curiosity piqued by the accusation. He remembered the missing watch from that night in Napa. Was she a savior or a con artist? He decided to find out. "Enough," Adrian commanded. "Jordan, you start now. But make one mistake, and I won't just fire you, I'll destroy you." He walked out, leaving the sisters alone. Chloe leaned in close, her breath hot against Jordan's ear. "If you tell him about the baby," she whispered, her voice trembling with malice, "I will make sure Zoe disappears into the foster system by noon tomorrow." Jordan watched her sister walk away, trembling with rage, realizing that working for Adrian wasn't just a job, it was a war zone. Adrian finds Zoe in the lobby and notices she has a genius-level IQ that rivals his own, and she's allergic to the same specific food as him. Adrian Kang stormed out of the executive elevator and into the sprawling glass lobby of Kang Tech, his mind still reeling from the boardroom coup. He needed air, space, and a moment to process the fact that the woman who had haunted his dreams for 7 years was now his head of legal. But the lobby wasn't empty. Sitting on a sleek, uncomfortable leather bench was Zoe, her legs swinging back and forth, holding a start pad she had swiped from the reception desk. She wasn't playing games. She was furiously typing lines of code into the guest interface. Adrian stopped, his curiosity overriding his irritation. He walked over, his shadow falling over the small girl. "That's a secured network," Adrian said, his voice stern. "You're going to lock the system." Zoe didn't even look up, her small fingers flying across the glass screen with a dexterity that shouldn't be possible for a 7-year-old. "Actually," she mumbled, "I'm bypassing your firewall because the guest Wi-Fi is throttled. Your encryption is sloppy in Block C. I fixed it for you." Adrian blinked, stunned. He knelt down, snatching the tablet from her hands to inspect the work. His eyes widened. She hadn't just bypassed the firewall, she had optimized the packet flow by 40%. It was a coding sequence he had invented himself, a sequence only he used. "Who taught you this?" Adrian demanded, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Nobody," Zoe shrugged, looking him dead in the eye with an intensity that mirrored his own. "I just see patterns. Like you. If you think this kid is a genius, comment genius because the next clue is going to give you chills." The air between them grew heavy, charged with a biological magnetism neither could explain. Just then, a bubbly receptionist named Sarah hurried over, holding a silver tray of gourmet cookies. "Mr. Kang. To celebrate the merger. And a treat for the little one," Sarah beamed, offering a macadamia nut cookie to Zoe. Zoe recoiled instantly, pressing her back against the leather seat, her face draining of color. "No!" Zoe shouted, covering her mouth. "I can't. It smells like macadamia nuts." Sarah looked confused. "It's just a cookie, sweetie." Adrian froze. The room seemed to tilt on its axis. He slapped the tray out of Sarah's hand, sending the cookies crashing onto the marble floor. "Get that away from her!" Adrian roared, startling the entire lobby. Sarah gasped, terrified. "Sir?" Adrian turned to Zoe, his heart hammering against his ribs like a war drum. "You're allergic to macadamias?" he asked, his voice trembling. It was a rare allergy, extremely specific, extremely hereditary. Zoe nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "My throat closes up. Mom says I have to carry a pen thingy." Adrian stared at her, his breath hitching. He had the exact same EpiPen in his suit pocket. The coding genius. The defiance. The rare allergy. It wasn't just a coincidence, it was a statistical impossibility. He reached out, his hand hovering near her cheek, needing to know, needing to ask the question that would destroy his current life. "When is your birthday, Zoe?" he whispered. Before she could answer, the elevator dinged, and Chloe stepped out, spotting the intimate moment. She realized instantly that Adrian was putting the pieces together. Panic surged through her veins like ice water. She couldn't let him find out. She had to act fast. "Adrian!" Chloe shrieked, rushing forward and purposely knocking into a waiter carrying a tray of champagne, sending glass shattering everywhere to break the moment. "Oh my God! Jordan just collapsed upstairs. She's not breathing." It was a lie, a desperate, vicious lie, but it worked. Adrian's head snapped up, the connection with Zoe severed by the terror of losing Jordan again. Adrian rushes to save Jordan, but discovers Chloe's lie, and finds a hidden photo in Jordan's wallet that changes everything. The elevator doors hadn't even fully opened before Adrian Kang sprinted down the hallway of the 25th floor, his heart hammering a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The image of Jordan collapsing, her life slipping away, played on a loop in his mind, overriding every logical thought he possessed. He burst through the glass doors of the legal department, shouting her name. "Jordan!" The entire open-plan office went dead silent. Heads turned. But there was no medical team, no ambulance, no chaos. In the center of the room, standing by the printer and holding a stack of merger documents, was Jordan. She looked up, startled, perfectly healthy, and utterly confused by the sight of the billionaire CEO looking like he had just run a marathon to save her. "Adrian?" she asked, stepping forward, her brow furrowed. "Is the deal off? What's wrong?" Adrian froze, his chest heaving as the adrenaline crashed into a wall of cold, hard realization. She was fine. Chloe had lied. Not a small lie, a vicious, calculated lie designed to sever the connection he was forming with Zoe downstairs. If you hate Chloe right now, hit that like button, because Adrian is about to unleash hell. He marched over to Jordan, grabbing her shoulders with a grip that was desperate and possessive. "Chloe said you collapsed. She said you weren't breathing." Jordan's eyes widened, her face paling as the cruelty of her sister's game sank in. She what?" Jordan stammered, realizing that Chloe was willing to weaponize death to keep her secrets. "I'm fine, Adrian. She's trying to manipulate you." Adrian released her, stepping back, his hands shaking with a rage he hadn't felt in years. "She manipulated me to get me away from the girl," he whispered, the pieces clicking together like a loaded gun. "Why is she so afraid of me talking to your daughter, Jordan?" Jordan flinched, backing up against her desk. In her haste to put distance between them, her elbow knocked her open leather tote bag off the edge. It hit the floor with a heavy thud, spilling its contents across the plush carpet: pens, a notepad, a keychain, and a worn, battered wallet that burst open upon impact. Adrian looked down, his instincts sharpening. Among the scattered credit cards and receipts, a single, dog-eared photograph had slid out of a clear plastic sleeve. It landed face up. Adrian stopped breathing. He recognized the lighting instantly, the golden, hazy sunrise of Napa Valley. He recognized the subject. It was him. A candid Polaroid taken 7 years ago, showing him asleep on the vineyard terrace, looking peaceful, unguarded, a version of himself he hadn't been since that morning. And written in the white margin in faded ink were 3 words: "My greatest regret." Jordan gasped, diving to the floor to snatch it, but Adrian was faster. He grabbed the photo, his eyes burning as he looked from the image to the woman standing before him. She hadn't stolen from him and laughed about it. She hadn't treated him as a mark. She had kept this photo for 7 years, carried it in her wallet like a sacred relic. "You kept this," Adrian said, his voice cracking, raw with emotion. "You left with my watch, you vanished without a word, but you kept a picture of me sleeping?" Jordan stood up, trembling, tears finally spilling over. "I didn't take your watch, Adrian," she choked out, her voice barely a whisper. "I took the photo because I knew I could never have the reality. Chloe told me, she told me you were betting on me. That I was just a game to you." Adrian's face hardened, the betrayal cutting deep. "Chloe lied," he growled. "She lied then, and she's lying now." He took a step closer, holding the photo up like evidence in a murder trial. "But if you didn't take the watch, Jordan, why did the tracker inside it ping from your apartment 3 days after you left?" The question hung in the air, a guillotine waiting to drop. Jordan opened her mouth to speak, to scream that Chloe must have planted it, but before she could, Adrian's phone buzzed with a security alert. He glanced at the screen and his blood ran cold. The notification was from the lobby security camera. "Priority alert, child unaccompanied, entering/exiting vehicle with unknown female." He looked at the live feed. It was Chloe. She was dragging Zoe into a black SUV. Adrian chases down the SUV in his sports car to save his daughter, but the crash reveals the final DNA proof he needs. Adrian didn't wait for the elevator. He didn't wait for explanations. He grabbed Jordan's hand, dragging her toward the emergency stairwell, his movements fueled by a primal, terrifying instinct that screamed predator. "She has Zoe," Adrian shouted over his shoulder, his voice echoing off the concrete walls as they took the stairs 3 at a time. "She's heading for the private airstrip. She's trying to take her out of the country." Jordan's scream of pure terror pierced the air. "She can't. Zoe doesn't have a passport. But they both knew Chloe didn't need passports, she had money, and she had Adrian's connections. They burst into the parking garage just in time to see the taillights of the black Cadillac Escalade screeching toward the exit ramp. Adrian shoved Jordan into his silver McLaren P1, the butterfly doors slamming shut like the jaws of a trap. "Buckle up," he commanded, igniting the engine. The sports car roared to life, a beast waking up, and peeled out of the garage, leaving a cloud of burnt rubber in its wake. They hit the chaotic streets of San Francisco, weaving through traffic with lethal precision. Ahead, the Escalade was driving recklessly, blowing through red lights, swerving into oncoming lanes. "She's going to kill her," Jordan sobbed, gripping the dashboard until her knuckles turned white. "She's insane." Adrian's jaw was set like granite, his eyes locked on the target. "I won't let that happen," he vowed, shifting gears and accelerating until the G-force pinned them to their seats. If you are on the edge of your seat watching this high-speed rescue, hit that subscribe button right now, because the crash is going to leave you breathless. The chase spilled onto the highway, speeds climbing past 100 miles per hour. Chloe saw them in her rearview mirror. Panic seized her. She swerved hard to take the off-ramp toward the marina, but she miscalculated the turn. The heavy SUV fishtailed, clipped the concrete divider, and flipped. Time seemed to suspend in midair. The SUV rolled once, twice, metal screaming against asphalt, before crashing upside down in a cloud of dust and shattered glass. Adrian slammed on the brakes, the McLaren skidding to a halt inches from the wreckage. He was out of the car before it even stopped moving. "Zoe," he roared, ripping the crumpled door of the SUV open with a strength born of pure adrenaline. Chloe was unconscious in the front seat, but in the back, Zoe was hanging from her seatbelt, crying, a jagged cut across her forehead bleeding profusely. Adrian unbuckled her, pulling her small, trembling body into his arms, shielding her face from the smoke. "I've got you," he whispered into her hair, his heart shattering. "I've got you." Paramedics arrived within seconds, sirens wailing. They laid Zoe on the stretcher, checking her vitals. "She's lost a lot of blood," the lead EMT shouted over the noise. "Her BP is dropping. We need a transfusion immediately, but we don't have her type on board. She's AB negative, Rh null. It's golden blood. It's too rare." Jordan collapsed against the ambulance, sobbing, "I'm O positive. I can't give it to her." The EMT looked grim. "If we don't find a donor in 10 minutes, her organs will shut down." The world went silent for Adrian. He looked at the little girl whose face mirrored his own. He looked at the rare allergy she shared. And now, the rarest blood type in the world, a blood type that had plagued his own medical history. He rolled up his sleeve, stepping forward with a calm that terrified everyone. "Take mine," Adrian said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "I'm AB negative, Rh null. I'm the donor." The EMT paused, staring at him. "Sir, the odds of a stranger having that blood type are 1 in 6 million. Adrian looked at Jordan, then down at Zoe. "I'm not a stranger," he declared, the truth finally spoken aloud. "I'm her father. The DNA test is just a formality now, but the real twist is what Chloe hid in the safe deposit box regarding the stolen watch." The steady, rhythmic beep of the heart monitor was the most beautiful sound Adrian Kang had ever heard, sweeter than any symphony, because it meant Zoe was alive. He sat by her hospital bed, a bandage on his own arm where they had drawn the blood that was now coursing through his daughter's veins, binding them together in a way no contract ever could. The door creaked open, and the chief of surgery walked in, holding a tablet with a solemn expression that made Jordan's breath hitch in her throat. "The transfusion was a success," the doctor announced quietly, tapping the screen. "And, Mr. Kang, per your request, we ran the genetic markers. The probability of paternity is 99.9999%. She is yours." Jordan let out a sob she had been holding for 7 years, her knees buckling until Adrian caught her, pulling her into his chest. He didn't say a word, he just buried his face in her neck, breathing in the scent of rain and vanilla, silently apologizing for 7 years of lost time. But the peace was shattered by the sound of heavy boots echoing in the hallway. 2 SFPD officers marched in, dragging a handcuffed and battered Chloe, who had been discharged from the ER straight into custody. She looked wild, her perfect facade destroyed. "You can't do this!" Chloe screamed, thrashing against the officers. "I'm his sister-in-law. It was an accident." Adrian stepped away from Jordan, his face transforming into a mask of cold fury that made the temperature in the room plummet. He walked over to the officer holding a plastic evidence bag recovered from the wreckage of the Escalade. "Show her," Adrian commanded. The officer held up the bag. Inside, amidst shattered glass and blood, was a rusted iron key with a bank tag labeled Safety Deposit Box 404. "We executed a warrant on your box an hour ago, Chloe," Adrian said, his voice deadly calm. "And guess what we found inside?" Chloe went pale, her struggles ceasing instantly. "We found my vintage Patek Philippe watch," Adrian revealed, the betrayal cutting the last string of her deception. "You didn't just frame Jordan for embezzlement. You stole the watch yourself, planted the tracker to ping at her apartment, and then hid the evidence for 7 years just to ensure I would never trust the woman I loved." The truth hit Jordan like a physical blow: the years of poverty, the shame, the struggle, it was all orchestrated by her own sister's jealousy. "Get her out of my sight," Adrian ordered. "And tell the DA if they offer a plea deal, I will buy the courthouse and evict them." As Chloe was dragged away screaming, silence returned to the room. Adrian turned back to Jordan and Zoe, the anger draining out of him, replaced by a raw, aching vulnerability. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the crumpled Polaroid of him sleeping, the one Jordan had kept. "You kept this because it was your greatest regret," Adrian whispered, tracing her jawline with his thumb. "My greatest regret is that I wasn't awake to stop you from leaving." Zoe stirred in the bed, her eyes fluttering open. "Daddy?" she croaked, her voice weak. Adrian smiled, the first genuine smile in a decade. "I'm here, Zoe. And I'm never leaving again." He kissed Jordan, a promise sealed in the sterile hospital light, vowing that the next 7 years would be filled with nothing but love. This is the end of the story, but the beginning of their life together. If you enjoyed this series and want to see more billionaire romances, family secrets, and dramatic twists, please subscribe, like, comment, Team Adrian, and share this video with a friend. Your support helps us create more amazing stories.